G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Christie David, and I run a mortgage broking business called Atelier Wealth, where we specialise in helping property investors start out and scale up their portfolios. And really what we're in the business of is helping investors and homeowners make confident property decisions. When it comes to making confident property decisions, it's knowing what your budget is, knowing who's in your corner, and how to build a successful team around you that has been there and done that. And that's the sole premise behind trying to get good quality talent to come into the studio and discuss either their journey or their profession with you to help you avoid making some of those bad decisions and trying to get you making more good and confident decisions as well. So before we do kick off, I want to reiterate that this conversation, this show is general in nature and not intended to give advice. So if you do need advice, please seek out a qualified professional. Today I'm joined by Faithe Skinner from Blue Mountains Buyers Agents. G'day Faith, how are we doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Nice to be out of the Blue Mountains, I'm sure, without the chill in the air.
Yes, the wind factor.
Yeah, correct. You're coming into your busy time, which is winter, and I'm sure the place comes alive with those seeking a warm fireplace and check out the Blue Mountains.
Very much so.
Yeah, wonderful. Now, as we have a chat today, Faith, we're going to learn a little bit about your journey. You've been an active property investor, which I think is very powerful for a lot of people that are trying to learn how to scale up. So you probably failed forward in some regards and made some good decisions,
yes,
which we'll touch on. And then now gone out of transition, say, from bookkeeping to moving into the buyer's agency space, using your own experience and now working with clients as well to build, to buy and to build a portfolio in the Blue Mountains, which I think is exceptional.
Yes, no, we've had, we started our investment journey in 2014.
Yep.
Buying some rundown houses, renovating them and renting them out.
Yep.
And then scaled up to 5.
Yeah.
Flipped a few.
Yep.
And then we've just got 1 left at the minute.
Yeah, okay. On that journey to build up to 5, did that happen fairly quickly? Because in 2014 and then here we are now, so build up to 5. I mean, that puts you...
I think we did maybe 1 a year.
Okay. 1
a year.
Yeah.
And in that, we learnt some valuable lessons. We were gazumped on 1.
Yep.
Not like due diligence, making sure, like checking there's no caveats.
Yeah.
Maybe people that are separating and the husband's put the property on the market and the wife doesn't know.
That's an interesting one.
So just, and now, and in that instance, looking at contract of sales.
Yeah.
Asking the agent, asking the conveyancer.
Okay.
Is there anything we should know?
Okay.
Is it a divorce settlement? Why are they selling?
Yeah.
It gives you an idea.
Okay. Yeah, nice one. How much work was involved? Are you talking structural renovations? We're talking licks of paint, for example. What was involved in your renovation?
Some was structural, but just ripping off the old gyprock, relining it, painting it, flooring, kitchen, modern bathrooms.
Yeah.
But very lucky that my husband's a handyman.
I was about to say, there's got to be a shortcut for success here because I don't have a single tradie bone in my body. So I'm always jealous when people come in and go, okay, we'll take this wall out, move it here. I'm like, yes, this is moving outside my job screen.
I just watch.
You're nice. Yep, you're the brains and your husband's the brawn in the business. So take me through, having bought, sold, grown your portfolio, for example, upon reflection, what are some of the things that you think worked? And then the flip side to that is what maybe learnings, insights did you kind of have that didn't work?
Sometimes time.
Yep.
Time's a factor. In amongst that, on one of our properties, he had a motorbike accident.
Yep.
And broke his hip and his pelvis.
Right.
It was essential. We needed to get this property on the market to rent.
Yeah.
And it delayed it. Some other things are maybe not... What is it? When he goes in really hard and tries to tackle a big job, you should have found a smaller job.
Okay. It's being a little bit overambitious there.
Yes.
Yeah. And then did you have a rule of thumb about how much you'd invest in the property? Because if the goal is to get this rented out, you're doing obviously some cash flow, being a bookkeeper, you handle on numbers, so how to do that.
Look, 150 would be roughly our max.
Okay.
And you could still rent it, positive gear it.
Okay. Yeah.
But they were very rundown houses.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so 150 grand per rental.
Quite cheap.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, our end game was to sort of, what the value was as the rent was.
Are you at a point where you're getting those properties revalued, pulling the equity to go again? Like, how was your scalability plan going?
Yes, we did do that. And then you'd wait for a while till you got to 2, at least had good equity, and then moved on to the next one.
Okay, cool. Perfect. In terms of the decision to sell, obviously this could be a very personal question, but some people go, look, I'm a buy and hold type of person. Some are buy and flip and sell straight away, for example. What was your strategy around selling?
Ideally, they were to keep.
Yep.
Because we wanted our kids to have an investment each.
Nice.
Things just changed, and I think we became the area, the tenant, the lack of the property management.
Okay.
We just like, you know what? We've put time, effort and money in.
Yeah.
The tenants destroy something and then come back to us and say, well, we'll take you. But we didn't damage the property, you did, but we can't come back and, try and repair it.
Yeah, okay.
So that was the hard part. And there was a point where there was one property that had like 3 damages and I'm like, no, we're out.
Okay. I really appreciate you being honest about that, because that's probably the hidden side where you get people go, look, I built this portfolio. It's like, actually, there's a flip side to this, which is you're dealing with people. And I won't say not everyone renting. A lot of people renting generally have pride in where they live. They take care of someone else's assets, and then you get some unfortunate situations, which is where like landlord insurance and everything comes in for a reason. But some people don't have that level of respect, and it's like, well, the brain damage to a landlord can be just like, look, I just don't want to buy into these problems. I just want an asset that increases in value. The rent comes in week without having to deal with these ongoing maintenance. And I have some clients that go, I thought this was meant to be passive income and I'm very active on these properties. I'm like, yeah, this is effective like a business where you have your finger on the pulse. Things will change. The bank will change rates. Your interest only term will roll off. You've got to change property managers. The tenant wants to leave, you've got to find a new tenant, or there's hot water issues. And so you are subscribing to some of these challenges to come into your life then, aren't you?
Yeah, very much so. We just recently had a hot water system blown on one of our other properties.
Yeah.
Over Christmas.
Yeah.
So you had to have that repaired straight away.
Correct. Yeah, there's some that are non-negotiable as well. Touchy, like moving into your role now to become a buyer's agent, what inspired the change and how's it going so far?
Inspired by change was I had been bookkeeping for real estate many years ago, and then I also was bookkeeping for an RTO that was a real estate trainer, and I just enjoyed watching it. And from there, I was like, well, I could go into sales. I've got my real estate license because we self-manage some of our properties.
Yep.
And I thought I best know the legislation and the law before trying to look like an amateur.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I came across Ben Handler's course, Buyer's Agent Institute. And I've got my license, just got to do his course.
Yeah, okay.
And I slowly nurtured the journey through. I didn't just go out and start. I really did the research. There's not very many buyer's agents that service the Blue Mountain.
I was about to say, like, you are one of the very few buyer's agents to venture out that far west, for example, because we'll have buyer's agents for the inner west, the eastern suburbs, northern beaches, maybe down the south coast as well. But I just feel like one area, Sydney, when we have clients that are going out there, it's like, there's no one there.
No. So I thought, why don't I just target the market from like Mount Vic all the way to Penrith, St Mary's, and help them. Because I know when we bought our first home over 20 years ago, it was daunting. And not knowing, like when someone says to you, do you realise there's no cooling off period? I'm like, well, no, it has to be.
Yeah.
You need to nurture that and help your clients through that, because they're going to have a rude shock when there goes no cooling off period. You've got to preempt them.
Correct.
And say, this is what the contract says. Are you prepared? This means we should do a building inspection now, not in the cooling off period. Have all your ducks lined up so you know that you can shoot that arrow at the end and go, right, done deal. Yeah.
And I think even from your experience, now that you're probably seeing it through a different set of eyes, buying property, we're exactly the same way. We're trying to get people's ducks in a row. Like, look, you've got all this time where you're passively looking. All it takes is for one good listing to come up that you both, if it's a couple, you both fall in love with, and now suddenly like the world stops spinning because you have to buy this one because it ticks all the boxes. but you haven't done any pre-work, for example, is what made it. What a shame. We've had all this time, and I probably feel like that's where people associate buying with being extremely stressful, versus you get the buyers that are organised, they got their pre-approval, they've already spoken to a conveyancer in the event that they find something, they've probably been to a couple of auctions, and they started looking at opens to get a feel, because what you see online in photos versus what you get in reality, I don't know. I'm past online dating. But I'm assuming it's a bit like that.
I've seen some strange ones. I went, I thought that house had furniture in it, and I've come to an empty house. I went,
Virtual styling.
Yeah. And I went, no, I need to see it.
Yeah, correct.
And, you go into a house and the bedrooms look so big, but they're not so big.
Yes.
Some things the photography does distort some.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Even just making the grass greener.
Yes. Yes.
I've seen that.
I have seen one.
Yeah.
And I questioned it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Being out in the Blue Mountains, I think one of the big draw cards is places like Lura, for example. Katoomba, I think you got a real strong village feel about it. It's probably the number one destination for people coming through from a touristy perspective to spend some time there, because it's that draw card with the cafes and wonderful little villagey feel to what the shops are there as well, maybe markets. So people's first instinct is, if they're making the tree change, is to go, I want to be in and around there. And you're like, well, that's probably the most expensive part.
Yes.
Because of that. It's got that solid following. How are you then having that conversation around, maybe have you considered these areas? They're emerging areas, they haven't kind of grown yet, they're sleeping giants.
Yeah, so some of the areas that I've seen from Lura down, Woodford is a beautiful little suburb.
Yeah.
Off the highway, hidden in the bush, nice and quiet. And then you've got Hazelbrook and Lawson, Bullaborough. They've all got great little niches about them, beautiful bushwalks.
Yeah.
And there's some hidden waterfalls.
Nice one.
So I do get some clients, and they really love the bush.
Yeah.
So the bushwalks are it.
Okay.
There's so many of them.
Yeah. I guess people have to be near the beach, right? They've just got that income to spend their time near the water and
Yeah, and they can do both. So if they want to go to Katoomba and do Scenic World and do that 1,000 stairs, enjoy.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're the hidden pockets that I think. I just say, like, for your budget, if you've got a smaller budget, they're the suburbs to look at.
Yeah. It could be a Falcon Bridge. I mean, I went there as a holiday there as a child, and you get wonderful memories. I think that's probably where you get fond memories, isn't it? You go holidaying there and you're like, I could potentially see myself, and we're having a chat beforehand. And so some of the tree changes that are coming out of Sydney, as one example, would be we want some more room. We want that community, villagey feel to raise a family, good commute into Sydney as well.
Yeah, it's not bad. You get the mountain train in.
Yep.
The other one is maybe not having your neighbours so close to each other.
Nice one. Yeah.
Just a bit of space, but everyone's still community orientated and look out for each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and some wonderful areas. I mean, we took our girls out recently to Blackheath, for example. He's had a
beautiful,
right? And there's some charm about it. There's some livability about it. So, and the blocks are pretty big. I guess one of the other considerations when we have clients looking out that way is maybe bushfire or fire issues. And I think by an uninitiated buyer, whether you're an investor or buying for your home, that's probably one area, because we have flood issues down the south coast where we are.
Yes.
But I'm assuming out there it's quite a fire-prone area.
Yeah, so in amongst that, I do the due diligence and let them know that it's what the fire zone is.
Yep.
Depending, say they might buy something that's run down, they want to renovate it, but you've got to now think of the fire rating.
Yep.
Requirements now that require certain windows or sprinklers and the roofing type.
Yeah.
So they're things that I do factor in and tell them if they're looking in a certain area.
Yep.
Yeah. So some properties near the highway aren't so fire prone. The ones sort of like Katoomba on the north side, yes.
Yep.
Much more fire prone.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. One of the big, I guess, draw cards, just like where we are on the south coast, I feel like it has a lot of similarities, sea change, tree change, is the short-term rentals. I'm talking Airbnb, stays, for example. Do you see a lot of maybe investors going down that path and getting some good returns? And
I've had one.
Yeah.
We never finished the journey. I guess it was her budget.
Okay.
And that was during COVID. So it was you had to be in or out.
Yes.
That's quick. She was already pre-approved, but you had to be in and committed. You couldn't question it because it would go the next day.
Yeah.
But look, predominantly most of the Airbnbs are Katoomba, Leura, Wentworth Falls.
Yep.
There's about 1,200 across the whole Blue Mountains.
Right.
But more predominantly in the upper, ready for winter.
Yeah, correct. That's where they...
Blackheath, the snow.
And I guess they're built for the fireplace and the main, and I guess the other consideration, we've spoken about short-term rentals in previous episodes as well, but the maintenance that comes with having a short-term rental, for example, the wear and tear on properties, the upkeep, and that ongoing cost to manage it.
Yeah, well. you might get a great weekly rate, but you've got to still maintain your occupancy. If you don't do that, you're still going to be struggling. You might as well rent it.
Correct. And another big one that I see come up now is NDIS, for example. Have you got much experience in NDISs and what options there are for investors?
A little bit with NDIS.
Yep.
I know some people that have want to move into NDIS property.
Yeah.
It's just there's two types you can have. There's the SDA, which is supported disability. The SDA, you need to be registered with the NDIS for that one, or you can have supported independent living. So you can buy a house and have it rented.
Yep.
But they can come in and you still get a fee from the NDIS for that.
Okay. All right, cool.
So there is that option.
Yeah, and I guess with budget coming out, there are going to be some changes around NDIS rental support as well. So I guess that's going to be one area that will get a little bit of a
there is
as well.
Not many NDIS supported houses in the mountains.
Right.
Predominantly Penrith, Emu Plains.
Okay.
I haven't seen very many in the mountains. There might be some in Lithgow maybe.
Okay.
But not many elsewhere.
Right.
And you need them to be close to transport because some of these people have disabilities.
Yes.
Could be wheelchairs, but if they're still functioning, they can still live in it doesn't have to be close to transport, but preferably if it is proper disability, then yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, nice one. As you go through the kind of looking through your buyer's agency lens, when you're dealing with real estate agents, again, we're having a chat recently, you're selling, in the midst of selling, we've just recently sold as well. You see the purchase from a different perspective because as the vendor, I don't know, we maybe have a little bit more empathy for a buyer, for example, and then trying to work with in partnership with a real estate agency. We were talking about how auction, there's a couple ways to sell. One is this whole blind auction where it's like submit an offer by this time and we'll consider all offers, which I think we can kind of say it's a really crap way, especially from a buyer.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it's a very lazy way to sell real estate.
A bit disheartening for the buyer.
Absolutely. It lacks transparency. Whereas the auction, I think most buyers dread it because they feel like you put on the spot, for example. And my question is, well, how many auctions have you attended? Oh, not many. I'm like, well, why aren't you going to as many auctions as possible, getting a feel for how this works, how the auctioneer kind of works the room or works the day as well. But I think it's the most transparent way to buy because you get to see competition, you get to see what other people are willing to offer. You get to see how much interest there is in the property and who's effectively trying to buy this as well and compete. I think it's reframing how auctions are versus private treaty, which you don't really know what other counter offers there are. And suddenly when you're not making that initial offer, you're now on the back foot trying to counter and then trying to increase that as well. So,
and going over your budget when you've got a set budget.
Yeah, okay.
You don't want to be pushed emotionally.
Yeah.
Auctions I think fantastic. As you say, it's transparent. I've been to 3 or 4 auctions for clients.
Yeah.
And it's very genuine.
Yeah. So are you trying to give me a couple of examples? Are you trying to make offers before auction, trying to close this out, go unconditional, and then trying to avoid the auction day, for example? Or
we have tried.
Yeah.
They've said, and I've said, what is it? What will it take?
Yeah.
And they said they just want to go to auction, so it didn't matter what my client had. They still wanted to go.
Yeah. And then the auction strategy, like how are you working with a buyer then? So if someone's listening going, hey, look, I'm going to auction. How do I work out my strategy? How do I work out how to play this, for example, as a negotiator, and having probably done this yourself numerous times,
Yep.
what are your tips and insights?
Right, so I'll write what their maximum that they can go to.
Yeah.
I then nut it down and go, right, I'll do some of my own research,
Yeah.
and I'll get the maybe just the guide
Yeah.
so that I can see online, and go from there and start there. And I will not go over their budget.
Yeah.
I will gauge the auctioneer to see if he's going to go increments of 20 or 50,
Yeah, correct.
and then play the game.
Yep. And that's where something like YouTube is so handy, because I'm like, well, speak to the agent, find out who the auctioneer is, jump onto their website or their Instagram, and they put all their auctions up. And you can get a really good feel for how they run their auction. Like, this is what, if you're trying to gain the edge and create an unequal playing field when you get to auction day, a buyer's agent to me is like the insurance policy. We go, we've come to win today.
Yeah.
And we're spending money to guarantee a win or get as close to a win as possible, or by doing your due diligence on watching a real estate agent or the auctioneer, and then maybe attending a few of their prior auctions, you're getting a very good jump on auction day, rather than coming there with like sweaty palms and super nervous, and you're trying to bid in that headspace. It's not ideal.
No, and make sure that your clients have done their due diligence before even attempting to go to auction, or that they've got the pre-approval ready to go, and it's unconditional.
Yeah, well said.
Because if you don't, there's no point in me auction. Like, go to the auction.
Yeah, great. And just the last question is due diligence. So when you're going through a property and someone's fallen in love with it, and you don't ever want to be the bearer of bad news, for example, always looking for ways to enable a property purchase. What's your trained eye looking for when you're doing an inspection on a property that maybe some people have overlooked, or when they're not looking for issues?
Couple of things. I look at the ceiling,
Okay.
eaves and gutters,
Yeah.
bathroom,
Yeah.
just to see if there's any leaks. Turn the taps on because you can hear the plumbing.
Okay.
If I can, I will try and get down and have a look to see if I can see anything under the house.
Okay.
I have seen a nice big pool of water under the house. I went, should we?
Okay.
Is it fixable? Found where the source was. It's fixable.
Yeah.
So they just hadn't done it and wanted a quick sale. So it could have, once I had nurtured the client and said, hey, it's fixable, and they understood, it was done sale. The sale went through, no problem. But yeah, they're the things I look for.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate
Oh, and if someone's got like a verandas and their beams, I'll have a look
it. Okay.
just to see if there's anything that looks like wood rot or it's been weathered too much.
Yeah. And I guess the elements, so someone buying, again, near the water are going to have very different weather elements compared to buying
Yeah.
in the Blue Mountains, for example, the cold, damp, for example.
And especially between now and I'd say October, it's still damp up there from winter.
Yeah, correct.
So, and coming into winter, it will be damp.
Yeah.
So you're going to see things. I mean, if you can't see, like, you might not see mould.
Yes.
Mould's not, like, I haven't seen any in the houses I've been into.
Yeah, okay.
And that's been brilliant. But clearly they've all got their wood fires on, so it's drying everything out.
Yeah, correct. Whereas you come down the coast and there's so much mould because where we are, the escarpment, for example, covers a fair amount of that sun. And so the mould is one issue that then has severe health implications for a lot of people. Some of these older houses just aren't built for a modern way of living.
No, and just more ventilation.
Yeah, correct. Perfect. Hey, Faith, I really appreciate your time. Really appreciate your sharing your knowledge with us as well. So if anyone's looking to explore the Blue Mountains, see what's there from an investor perspective, whether you're looking, say, NDIS, they're bigger blocks, or there's opportunities around townhouses, manor houses. We've seen a few done in the past as well. Number one, I guess, stop for any potential investor is speak to a buyer's agent and find out what's your budget, what does it get you, and what can you possibly do with potential development opportunities. And if you're looking to buy to live, then trying to get that unfair advantage by engaging a buyer's agent to shortcut that negotiation process, I think is a very, very worthwhile investment of time and resources as well. So we'll include details to your website if anyone wants to reach out. And I want to say thank you once again for joining us. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it.
We'll get your scarves and beanies out for the rest of the winter.
Yes.
Yeah, enjoy.
Thank you.
Great. That's a wrap for another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. If you found it helpful, please leave us a review. We'd love it. And even better if you left us a comment for any future questions that you may have that you want answered as well. Until next time, take care.